Hi, it's Gwen from Hummingbird Tarot. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe. And don't forget to hit the bell so you get notice every week when I post a new video. In this video, I want to talk about protecting yourself and your space before you use tarot. I encourage you to go ahead and watch the video, even if you feel like this isn't something that you could need. It's good to have these tools available in case you need them. So my story, I've been reading tarot for over 25 years, and separate from that, for pretty much my whole life, I've had ghosts and spirits coming into my life. Those were always two separate things. I didn't have anybody in my life who'd even had any experience with either one of those things that I knew about. And they certainly weren't talking about it if they did. So when I would read tarot, I didn't do any rituals to protect myself or to ground myself. Grounding is also very important, and I'll be making a separate video on that. I started to notice that if someone was really upset or had a negative response to the reading that I did, or they came in to the reading in a very negative frame of mind, that some of that negativity would stick around after them leaving. And that would get exhausting. Probably about 5 years ago, I met someone who's in the spiritual realm. Once I started being a little bit more open about myself and what I'm experiencing, and what she shared with me is when you attract that kind of energy, you're like a flame to moths. And the same thing can happen sometimes with people who read tarot. When you're reading tarot, you're working with energy, and you can attract energy from other people and maybe other entities that are around. So you just kind of need to be aware of that so that you can do things to protect yourself. I'm certainly not an expert on this. I encourage you to read up more on cleansing your space, protecting your energy, and also grounding. Pick what works for you. And if it doesn't work for you or it sounds weird, don't do it. Don't do it. The more that you work with tarot, the more you tap into your intuition, I think you're probably going to need to start protecting yourself. So about 10 years ago, I started learning how to ground and protect myself. I'm not a medium. I'm not interested in interacting with ghosts and spirits and having conversations with them and doing all of that. It doesn't always happen at a convenient time. It's not always something that I want to be dealing with. And I used to do everything I could to just ignore it. Some of the things that I've done, I've burned sage and walked through my space. I have a book that I bought since then. It's called the Smudgings and Blessings book, and it talks a little bit about the history of smudging, and smudging is what they call when you burn sage, the smoke. You're smudging a space, and that is seen in Native American practices. There's lots of churches that burn incense as a part of their practice. The ancient Romans burned incense. Burning incense and using smoke to cleanse an area is something that's been around in most civilizations for thousands of years. When you sage a space, you walk around, and I have a big sage stick like this that I use, and sometimes it's hard for this to burn, and I've learned you can just put a drop or two of essential oil on there, and the oil will help it stay lit. It likes to go out. But what smudging does is it cleanses an area, and it clears all energy, positive and negative, from a space. And that sometimes can leave a vacuum that can suck in other energy. So then I also go through the space that I've smudged after that, and I burn something called Palo Santo. And this is a stick of wood, and you can find Palo Santo, and also with the sage sticks, you can find those all over the place. You can also cleanse an area with music. And if you Google 432 megahertz is what you want to look for. And what will come up is you'll hear singing bowls. If you look on YouTube for 432 megahertz, you'll hear monks chanting. You'll hear Gregorian chants. Those types of things, it's at that 432 megahertz, and that is known to cleanse the area. So there's people also that have little chimes that they hit, and they make a special resonance that is used to cleanse the space. I have a feather that I made for myself to help get the smoke into all of the corners of the room so that I'm not blowing on and spreading the ashes around. I usually walk with a dish or something under the sage so that if any ash drops, it doesn't drop onto my carpet. When my house, the first time we moved into it, I opened up every single drawer and every single cupboard in the house and walked through the whole house with the house closed up and saged it. And then I opened up the house and let that air release. And then I walked through the house again and I used Palo Santo wood to burn to bring in positive energy. Well, about 5 years ago, I started having lots of what I would call poltergeist activity in my house. I tried saging, I did everything else, and you can also burn a candle and ask the entity to go into the candle and try to help them move on. Nothing that I tried was working. That's when I found this book, A Magical Course on Tarot. It's by Michelle Morgan. One of the things that she talks about in here is, it sounds like she had similar problems that I do with spirits and ghosts interacting with her, and she used, as soon as she touched a deck of tarot cards, all those voices fell silent for her. So what I decided to do at that time, that's kind of when I combined my tarot practice with the whole ghosts and spirit side of things and using the tarot to control that. I pretty much set the intention and I put it out there that the ghosts and spirits can only interact with me when I have a deck of tarot cards in my hand, and they can only talk to me through my spirit guides. I don't want to have any direct contact with them. Once I did that, and as long as I'm reading the tarot cards every day, things quiet down quite a bit. But I have to make sure that I'm setting my intention and my rules and being very firm and clear about what it is that my rules are. And you're going to have to do that too. If you don't want them coming in your house, then, and if that's something, you may not have anything to do with that in your life, which is fine, or this may open up. Once you start tapping into your intuition, you may start to have the types of interactions that I have. So then when we moved into our new house, things started getting crazy again. Let me go through what I do to protect my space first, and then I'll talk a little bit about what I do to protect myself. So my space, what I do with my tarot cards, when I shuffle them, I've put the intention out there that when I shuffle my tarot cards, that is cleansing them. And you'll see lots of different ways to cleanse your cards. Some people knock on them. Some people have to burn sage and smudge around them. It's all about personal preference and what works for you. And the same is said for what you have to do to protect your space. So if you go to a church, or you could talk to the church and see if they do a house blessing for you. If you don't have a church that you attend and you use prayer in your everyday life, you can find a prayer that will pray for the safety of everyone in the house. I usually start outside my front door, and I bring my cell phone with me, and I find something at 432 megahertz to be playing on my cell phone. Typically for me, I like French Gregorian chants, and I play that. And I also, at the doorway to the house, and I've done this a lot of different ways. This is kind of where I landed, and I tried a bunch of different things until I found things that worked for me. So I will talk to the spirit of the house, which is the Native American part that was shared with me by a shaman that I know. I thanked the spirit of the house for welcoming me and my family and all of our guests to the house. As I step into the house, I've also got my sage with me, and I just set the intention that says, this house is full of love and light. And if you have prayer, if you use prayer, you can start before you enter the house with a prayer to be protected. If you're praying to a certain saint or something, you can say a prayer about that. As you're walking through the house, you want to just keep repeating it over and over for the love and the light. And you want to talk about what you want to attract. As I'm walking through the house with the sage and the smoke is burning, I start and I go to the right. I'm always going to the right. That way I completely cover the entire house. And as I'm walking through the house, I've got my music playing, and I just say, this house is full of love and light. And I make my way through the entire house. If it's a big room, then I may stop every once in a while and run the sage and reach my hand out to get the center of the room as I'm going. I smudge the whole house with sage, and then I go back again, doing the same thing with a Palo Santo stick. I had been doing that, and that wasn't enough. We were starting to have additional activity at the house. I reached out to, at an event that I went to, there was a woman there. Her name was Deborah Duncan, and she has a website called psychicfixes.com, and she was so generous with her time with me. I shared with her that we were having some activity in the house. I'd cleansed the house and done everything that I knew how to do, and I asked her for advice. It wasn't just me in the house, so I was concerned about the other people that were in the house with me. Deborah was generous enough to give me the manuscript for something that she was writing called Protective Magic. I'm going to refer you to her website just because she was just so generous with sending this to me. One of the things this Protective Magic book also suggested, which I had also been doing for years, I also had bowls of salt that I put in every room, and that's supposed to attract negative energy, and I just would change out the salt every time that I felt like I needed to. I was already doing that. Also lavender oil, and I use lavender because that's a protective oil as well, and so I'll spray that in the rooms that feel a little heavier to me. And those are things that are talked about in the Protective Magic manuscript that she gave me a copy of. Also, that book that I showed you earlier does talk about lavender and essential oils in there to be used. So I had already done those things, but she talks about how to protect your home as well. And one of the ways that you can do is you can get some crystals or just some stones that you really like and place them at the four corners of the house. Don't forget about your garage. And if your house isn't a complete square, then use more than 4 to make sure that the whole house is enclosed within that circle. And you can place them inside the home, which is where I keep mine, or outside the home. And you place the stone, and then with each stone, you focus on it, and you focus on sending and you're basically charging that crystal and making the energy go up high above the house and down below the house as well. And you're imagining the energy and you're sending positive energy to it. And you do that with each of the crystals. So if you can imagine all the crystals that you've set in a space that you've charged, and you've got light stretching from that going up high above the house and light stretching down below, and then you connect each of the energy that you've got going up. You connect each of those like a fence and a wall around the house, and the same with the part that goes under the house, and then it comes up and around and closes up above the house. So you picture that, and then you imagine the house full of white light. If there's any area of the house that feels dark, then you can go to that space and picture yourself pushing any darkness outside of that boundary that you've created around your house, and just fill up that space in your mind. You close your eyes and you fill up that space with white light. So I did this on top of smudging the house and spraying lavender oil and using salt. It was just a sense of peace that I felt in the house for the first time in a long time. So that worked for me too. And I know the bottom line in all of these things is that I chose things and put the intention in there, and it's all about your intention. I put the intention that it was going to work. So when I'm spraying the lavender oil, I am very intent with the lavender oil that's in this bottle is going to get rid of any negative energy that's in this room, and as I spray it, it's going to push it out. And that's just, you don't have to say that out loud, you just need to know that and create that knowing in yourself, and it's all about the intention. So any of these things, you need to make sure that you're saying things that are positive, that you want to have happen. Whatever it is that you choose to try to do to protect yourself, you need to have the intention there that it's going to work. And if you hear something or a way of protecting yourself that sounds silly, or you don't think it's going to work, it's definitely not going to work. Don't choose that. Keep looking until you find things that you think might work for you. And I kind of did that at first. That's the way I kind of went through it. Okay, this doesn't seem, it can't hurt. So after some of the readings that I had done and I had that negative weighty feeling, burned some sage, and I immediately felt lighter and I felt better. And so I thought, okay, so maybe I will try that. Maybe there is something to this. You may decide you don't want to do any of this. At least you've done your research and you know, in case you do need it. I wanted to go into this topic because I've had a lot of issues myself, and I didn't have any resources. I didn't know what to do or where to go. So if you can do the research for yourself ahead of time and be prepared for that information, if you don't need the knowledge, then that's great. But if you do, then you have some tools and you know what you can do to protect yourself, and you can take those steps to do that. Thank you for watching. I hope some of the details in this video have been helpful. Blessings to you in your tarot practice.